Hey everybody, how is it going? It is July 26th. This is a Wednesday, and this is the RambleCast. You've come to expect this. You know the routine. There's a Corbin in here,
Hello.
and I totally got thrown off as the very loud chime came through uh for you not tweeting it,
Oh yeah, it's
posting.
tagging you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just literally, I said your name. It happened at that very moment. It's like, what the hell? That was
yeah, because I don't click the button until we're like actually going. But yeah, but I do like I have that's a shortcut on my Mac. I just click a thing in the menu bar and then I click a button and then it posts that with and I can just save the entire message is identical every time because I can just do a permalink to your live stream on YouTube. Uh, Again, another thing, it's really easy with Mastodon that I appreciate. Is always nice.
and it occurs to me that that's a great reminder to post it to my own Discord that we are live. Oh, I'm a pro. What can I say? Uh anyway, so yeah, super exciting week, right? Right? Crickets? No, not that exciting.
It was exciting for me, but not for the well,
Not for reasons you can
exciting.
discuss on on stream.
Well, not necessarily even that. Just reasons that like I don't know if I would if excited is right because I think excited implies like you're feeling good about something, and I'm most certainly not. So
True,
um,
that's fair. Anxious,
int-
anticipatory. Um,
it's interesting. We'll say interesting.
yes, yes. Um, so Austin brings up, yes, the obvious elephant in the room, Samsung. Yes, Samsung did a thing today. And we are going to talk more about Samsung things. But as a quick overview, Samsung's Unpacked event actually had a lot to discuss today. They announced, I I believe it's what, 5 products, 6 products. I'm not exactly sure. In fact, it could be way more than that. I really did not watch it or really pay super close attention. I just kind of picked up a lot of things on the side. But they did announce 2 new phones, the new Flip and the new Fold. I know it's the Fold 5 and the Flip 4. Okay, I have to look down the screen a little bit to catch the Flip 4. But yeah. Uh, Now, I don't have super involved knowledge on either of these, but had discussions a couple of days ago about titles for the hands-on articles that our people at Android Police posted, and the summary position was basically the Flip 5, or sorry, the Fold 5. Uh, oh no, sorry, it's the Flip 5. Wait, wasn't the Fold also a 5?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they're on the same. Yeah, one of them skipped a number at
that's
some
why.
point. The
Okay,
six
I
just
know the
picked up.
Flip
Yeah,
came later.
yeah.
Okay, well, that was smart. At least they're sticking to generations. Though the smart thing would have been to find some way to tie them to the year. But okay.
Yeah,
Kind
because
of like they've done with the Galaxies.
the normal S phone is tied to the year, but everything else is not.
Yeah,
Great system, guys.
those a-holes. Anyway, so I one of these days Samsung will figure this out and they're just going to launch. All of a sudden we're going to have like, let's pretend for a second they're going to have a wearable like eye thing, and they're just going to come out with like the Visor 24, and everyone's going to be like, but it's literally your first one. How, why? And meanwhile all the news people are going to be like, oh my god, this is excellent, they came out with something that's named to the year. Woohoo, they figured it out right away. While the rest of the world is just like, what happened to the first 23 of these? Like, we didn't
Right.
see them. Anyway, so they came out with the Fold 5. Pretty much everyone I've heard talking about it is saying, yeah, this is very iterative improvements. The opinion of Will Saddleberg at Android Police was basically nobody is going to upgrade from the Fold 4 to the Fold 5 because it's not worth it. There's just basically no reason to upgrade. And therefore, the opinion that we came to is it's really just like the changes they made are all about appealing to new buyers, not existing buyers. As for the Flip, the summary position was they made this display bigger, and that finally made it worth using. Otherwise, again, pretty much iterative improvements.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Flip is still just a hair under $1,000 still, which is somewhat impressive. And the Fold, isn't it still 2,000 or like 1,800? I think
it's still 1,800.
Yes.
I do feel the need to quickly call out your choice of saying it's a hair under $1,000 for the Flip, because I've never paid $1 for a hair, but you know, is what it is. Or wait, is it $9.99, $99? If it is, I guess I'd be willing to pay a penny for a hair.
I think they did. Yeah, it's something like that.
Damn them. Okay. Anyway, so, yeah, their phones, they fold. I'm sure they're still very breakable, which is their key problem.
Yeah, I've had this discussion multiple times over the past like week or so, where I'm just like, I would not spend my own money on these, and I don't see that changing for the foreseeable future, just because I am not comfortable with the downgrade in endurance. Like I think it's I really appreciate that my little $400 iPhone SE and indeed like $100 phones, they don't, this isn't going to have a crease in it in a couple months. It's not going to do that. It will probably still possible, but probably not have like random dead pixels in the middle of the screen
or ghost touches.
Right. And you know what? It can be, in the rain accidentally sometimes, and I don't have to worry about it at all. I know that's been getting better with these folding phones, but they still have the challenge where they cannot ever create a seal. So like their Samsung solution has just been to add like a coating to the inside of the phone, which is insane, but I guess is probably the best solution there. So yeah, I don't see myself getting these at any point in the near future, because it doesn't seem like there's like I don't think there's gonna be a Fold 6 or 7 that like ever fixes that problem. Like this is just fundamental to, you have a screen that is not a solid object, and ultimately there has to be some gap somewhere for a hinge to function. I'm sure it'll get like better and better, and maybe after enough iterative improvements it gets there, but yeah, I would not buy one of these, especially from Samsung, which does not have the best product support in the US. So yeah, sorry to be a bummer, but these seem like the opposite of what I want out of my phones, which is something that will work and not spontaneously break one day.
So I'm going to come a little bit closer to the sort of friendly position. I do think that we're going to get there. Like, legitimately, there's going to be a folding phone at some point that is actually going to, work and survive and endure a little bit of abuse. We're definitely not there now, but someday, and it will be worth it. And I do think it's going to come a little bit sooner than the very, very far out distant future. Um, but yeah, probably not. I don't think it's going to be next year. I think, if anything, we're probably looking at more like uh, the what? Probably 3-4 years out. At which point, I believe it will normalize enough that we'll be able to say, oh yeah, you know what? If someone wants to buy a folding phone now, your problem will not be that it's going to go bad on you, like literally go bad on you within uh, a day or week or a month. Um, that being said, they still got to come down in price too, or at least the fold does.
Yeah.
The flip isn't a price point I think is acceptable.
Yeah, it's at a normal phone price. Now, granted, if you're like cross shopping with none, because like the main cutback on the flip is that it has a smaller battery compared to like other phones in that price range because it's physically smaller,
Mm-hmm.
and the cameras are pretty like base level modern smartphone cameras.
Yeah.
So again, like Samsung's trying to hit a price point here. I think that's a great idea. Um, but yeah, it's still like you're compromising on other things to get that form factor, which obviously a lot of people are okay with because the flip is the one they sell the most of.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard for me to. It's hard for me to judge too hard because I also support the whole argument that, uh, like it or not, they need to do this sort of development. I approve of the fact that they're trying, and I approve of the fact that there's someone out there who is willing to spend their money on making it happen. Cheers to both of these.
Yeah. Like I don't remember what the exact statement was, but I do remember Samsung was talking about at one point how these folding phones are like their main way of getting iPhone owners to switch to their products because Apple has nothing like this.
Yeah.
So people see it looks cool, they're like, all right, I will switch to Android for this. Um, I don't know how long they necessarily stay in the ecosystem, especially if their phones are more prone to breaking. But you know, that has been something that has been going on now for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably why Apple's rumored to be making some kind of foldable phone.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure they will at some point, but let's be honest, they're probably going to have to turn to Samsung to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe not, but odds are. I suppose we'll see though. It's possible that they maybe worked with LG, or they might be finding somebody else who can do this. But I don't think Samsung itself has that technology in any of its facilities, and other than that, they'd have to approach somebody else, and there's not a lot of companies that are really equipped to do this kind of thing, so I guess we'll see. Yeah. So anyway, that's the phones. I I feel like we've probably already exhausted this one as much as anyone here wants to hear us sort of ramble about that. Let's see. Next up, we're actually going to, people who were watching saw me scroll past tablets. We're going to hit tablets in a moment because we have more to say. But they also announced the Watch 6. It's a watch. There have been 6 of them. Actually, there technically been more than that, but we don't need to split hairs on that subject. Yeah, I honestly don't know anything about the watch announcement.
Oh,
I mean, okay, they did the 6 and the 6 Classic, so yay, both.
Yeah, they brought back the spinny bezel for people who want spinny bezel, which I do appreciate. That was nice on the Samsung watches I had with that, which was I think it was just one. I think it was a review unit because when I always bought the watches, I wanted the one that was less like bulky, and that was always the first. It was the Watch Sport, and then it was the normal version of the Galaxy Watch. But yeah, they brought back the spinny bezel, which is cool. These are the first smartwatches, to my knowledge, running Wear OS 4, which is not as big of a leap as Wear OS 2 to 3 was, but I'm sure it matters somehow. Kirby said Android Wear for Corbin now. I don't know what that means, but it might just be my brain shutting down because I've had a long day.
I don't know. As far as I know, you were already using Android Wear for a little while. Oh, Apple Watch.
Oh, Apple Watch. Yes, I do have Apple Watch. Unfortunately, I went full shill. Also, because my Galaxy Watch, I think it's a 4, 4 or a 5. At one point, when I was swapping between like Android and iPhone, so I'd use my S21 for a couple weeks and then switch to this SE. At one point, I powered off my watch 4 or 5, whichever one it is, because I was going to use iPhone for a couple weeks. And then when I went back to Android, I tried to power up that watch. It is completely dead. Wouldn't turn on. Didn't matter what I did. Maybe sending it to Samsung would fix something. But I was just kind of annoyed. I didn't want to deal with it. So now I'm on iPhone most of the time. So I just got the Apple Watch when it was on sale.
Which watch did you say that's dead?
It was either the Watch 4 or the Watch 5.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it just wouldn't turn on.
I don't know if it's anything like the situations I've had, but both my LG Watch W, which at this stage is so old I wouldn't be surprised if it died, and the I can't remember what this other one is. Anyway, both of them have had problems where if they sat and managed to reach a point of fully or like powering off as a result of using up the battery, then I'd have to leave them plugged in for like anywhere from 10 minutes to sometimes hours for them to finally be like, oh, you know what, I want to charge. I think that's actually a good idea. And then they would start charging. Like, I don't know what the reason is, but they just take forever to come out of. For those that don't know this term, but it's actually a common thing. Sleeping Beauty state is what it's called. I'm sure you can guess why. Anyway, yeah, for whatever reason, they really have a problem with Sleeping Beauty. The Sleeping Beauty bug.
Yeah, I tried everything. I tried, leaving on the charger for forever. I tried sticking in the freezer for a while. But yeah, so that was annoying. And so yeah, those are the watches.
Yep.
I don't have anything to say. I do have stuff to say about the tablets. Because this is the one thing I wrote the article for.
Yes, you did.
Other people wrote the other articles. So, Samsung released their new Galaxy Tab S9 series, which is their main flagship tablets. Like, these are the iPad Air / Pro sort of thing. Just like last year with the S8, there are 3 models, technically 4. There's the base Tab S9, that is an 11-inch Android tablet. It's got an AMOLED screen that goes up to 120 hertz, which is pretty cool. The base Tab S8 last year was LCD, which was kind of insane given what the price point for that was. But now it's AMOLED. And it's got the same Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy chip that the S23 series has. That's nice. It starts with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. Goes up from there. It's also got, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, all that fun stuff. Still no headphone jack though. Apparently you There's nowhere for that on this. That was too tall of an order. Um, and then they have a Tab S9 Plus, which is almost the same thing, but it has a larger 12.4-inch screen, and some of the RAM and storage is higher. And then there is a Tab S9 Ultra, which has a 14.6-inch screen. So that is that's a chonker of a tablet right there. And going up that list, like each one has like slightly better cameras or like another lens somewhere. And all of them got the S Pen in the box, just like all the older tablets. It's still like one of the strongest selling points for these is that Samsung has a lot of stylus features in One UI, and they all ship with a stylus, and they magnetically clip onto the back. And all of them got Android 13. That's nice. But the pricing for these is insane. Like these are just not competitive whatsoever with anything. It's pretty stunning. So the base tab. Okay, so for context, this is like Samsung's entire like flagship tablet line, at least in the US. I know other countries they have some other different options, but like they don't really have like a Tab E model anymore, at least not anything that's like recent. So once you go below this, they just have like some Tab A tablets that have much lower end chipsets in them, and most of them have LCD screens. I don't know if they have any with AMOLED. So for all intents and purposes, this is like their entire like modern tablet lineup. Like this is their iPad Air, iPad Pro. So Tab S9 starts at $800. No, I'm sorry, guys. Like the current no, again. So this is again 120 hertz AMOLED screen, which Apple does not do. They don't have AMOLED screens on any of their iPads. They have other LCDs that are like supposedly pretty close on like the high end, but it's not the same thing. So, and I will give Samsung points for including a stylus in the box. Apple refuses to do that famously. But again, that is $800 starting price in the US. And if I go to like Apple's website right now, and I go to their current 10.2-inch iPad. Let me see, iPad. Yeah, the current 10-inch iPad is $450. So that is a lot less, and again, doesn't have a stylus. That's another 100. So if that's important to you, add that on to the comparison. And that tablet is LCD, not AMOLED, and it has a more boxy aspect ratio. So like one of the selling points also for Samsung tablets is that wider screen is nicer for like movies and stuff. It's not really great for like normal tablet stuff though.
Yeah, it's less ideal for app usage, but it's generally better for movies.
Yeah.
Though there is an interesting argument that I've heard made where if you were doing video editing, since you still need some of the screen dedicated to controls along with a viewer, at which point I've heard a lot of arguments that the iPad is more suited for that.
I could see that. And so yeah, like Apple's base iPad is a lot cheaper, even after like if you want a stylus, you're factoring that in. And Samsung still has the issue where there is a huge shortage of tablet optimized Android apps. That's been getting better over the past like 2 years or so because Samsung has been pushing foldables, and so Google and Samsung have been attempting to figure out this solution where like when we build interfaces for foldables, they also kind of work on tablets too. So a lot of Google apps now are better on tablets. Still not great, but like there have been actual meaningful improvements there. But there still is a lot of stuff on the iPad that is not on Android. And I don't know how the Snapdragon chip lines up with what's in the iPad. Um, but it's like it's still really hard for me to see that price point work. Like unless you're like, you know, I mean, I was this person for a long time where like I like understand this is probably the inferior option, but like I've got all my apps and games in my, you know, Android Google library. I like having the, you know, SD card back when I was packing just a ton of, you know, offline movies and games and stuff. You know, SD card was nice for that. But like I think for most people this just does not make sense at all. And it gets worse on the upper end where you have like the Tab S9 Plus, which starts at $1,000
Yeah.
for Android tablet. Guys, it's not a like I can't like Android like in a lot of ways is more open than uh like an iPad, right? Like you can do a lot of stuff on Android that you can't do, but also it's still lacking those tablet optimized apps. Um, and it's still like not a real operating system. Like Android is not a it's not Windows. It's not Windows, it's not Linux. You know, if you can't have Photoshop on there, you can't really do any software development stuff really. It's not it's not a like $1,000 is a lot for that. For the kind of this weird device that like doesn't really fit in with uh a lot of other products in this category. And then it gets up to the Tab S9 Ultra, which is $1,200 starting. And again, that is like, you know, nice ultrabook money.
Yeah.
That is
It begs the question, what would you do? What is it that you need to spend this much money to get? Or rather, what are you getting here that you couldn't get for less somewhere else with a equal or better experience? And the answer is fundamentally there is almost basically like there's a very narrow set of like, oh, if you need this, and this all together, you can justify that this is the best option.
Right.
And then it might
And
be
like
worth the money. But
yeah.
that's a very narrow set of circumstances.
Yeah. Kirby Mermaid in the chat says that's an LTE/5G iPad Air 5 along with the Magic Keyboard case and a second gen Apple Pencil for $1,200.
Yeah.
Yeah. It like I really don't see where this fits in again, unless like you said, you just have like several must-haves that do not exist in other solutions. Because tablets are always like an exercise in like what can I do without. Like if if I go with a Microsoft Surface tablet, it's like great, I have a full computer, I can do whatever I want. The battery life is not good and most of the apps don't know what a touchscreen is, but I've technically got a full computer here. iPad is kind of the same, where it's like, wow, all the apps look great and they're like perfectly designed for the screen and experience. Oh wait, I can't format a flash drive. So yeah, you always have like some weird compromises with each of these, but this just seems like it's in a really weird spot, especially because like so the main issue with Android is a lot of the apps are not built for screens like roughly larger than like a big phone. That's the core problem. So that base Tab S9 with an 11-inch screen, like apps that are only built for phones, they're not going to look good, but they'll like they'll work. They won't be like you're gonna have some apps that are just not sized properly and like have like a text column that spans the entire width. This I remember Twitter for Android being like that, where it just had no tablet layout whatsoever, and I had to use the progressive web app version of Twitter on my Galaxy Tab. And that problem gets worse So with the larger screen, so if you pay more for that Tab S9 Plus or that Ultra, that's going to be way worse. Now, Samsung's solution for that is either the split screen column stuff that's in Android now, or you can fire up the Dex environment, which puts all your apps into like these little like windows you can move around. But that's not very nice. It's great as an option. Like it'd be nice if Apple's Stage Manager on iPad turned out a little bit more like that and less like whatever they did. But it's a very hacky workaround to the fact that just most Android developers do not care about the tablet form factor.
Right. And even with the whole thing of, yes, they've started to try a little bit more with folding devices. The practical truth of the matter is the folding devices just made some developers care enough to start trying to support folding devices. It didn't make them go all the way to supporting their apps on tablets. They just made them a little bit better for folding devices, which in turn, yeah, they're better for tablets, but they're still not right for tablets. They're not making good use of that screen space because a lot of developers still see tablets as a thing that they're too few products with too little distribution, so they don't bother trying. And don't get me wrong, coming in from the standpoint of being a developer who, at one point in my life, I worked at a company and I fought the battle to support Firefox back when Internet Explorer was the only browser anybody used. So I'm in the mindset of, hey, let's support more stuff. And even I look at Android tablets and go, yeah, that's a lot of work. It ain't worth it.
Right. Yeah. It's just a matter of like, how far can you get from how an app is designed before it's like almost unusable? Because like if you have an app that's like really optimized for like foldable like book style phones, so when you open those phones you get kind of like 8-9 inch sort of screen roughly, but it's like in a kind of a weird size because it's more square. So when you blow that up to a widescreen 11-inch Android tablet, it's not going to look like great, but it's going to be it's fine. It's usable. Better than like if it was a phone app blown up to an 11-inch screen. But again, like even that optimized experience is not going to be great in most cases on that 14-inch Tab S9 Ultra. That's going to look horrible.
Yeah.
And then by extension, the apps that are only built for phones are just like completely unusable in full screen on a device like that. Your only choice is like having it as a little floating window in the Dex or doing split screen stuff.
Yeah. So all told, this does not. I don't think anyone was going to look at these and say they were going to make any sort of changes in their perspective on Android tablets. But given the price, basically it's impossible to recommend these to hardly anybody. Like, again, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's saying, oh, I need something with good battery life that allows this specific set of use cases. It is tablet form factor, needs a stylus, and I don't know, there's probably some other button in there that you have to hit in order for this to finally be the ideal choice.
You've got like hundreds of dollars worth of games purchased over the years on the Play Store,
I mean,
stuff like that.
No, you say that, but let me throw this back at you. If you're sitting there going, oh, I will buy the $800 tablet instead of the $450 tablet.
Right.
There is right there $350 that you just saved that you could spend on games for an iPad.
Right.
So why, you don't need to go back to that. Plus the iPad will almost certainly play them better. And there will be more games and options to choose from in the future. So it's still the better strategy there. So I will say again the same thing that I said in Discord. There is exactly one reason why they came out with this. Or rather why they're pricing at this point. And it's because they have to be working. Well, yeah, they have to be working out contracts with companies to sell these basically in bulk numbers, or maybe some lease agreement or something like that, a service agreement, whatever the case. Because let's be honest, Samsung is coming out with these tablets every year. It's every year, right? I think they're on a yearly cycle.
Like roughly, yeah.
Okay. If they're coming out with them with any sort of frequency, it means they're selling them or doing something with them. You've never, I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming none of us have ever really seen these out in the wild in the last few years. I can certainly think back to when I used to see a lot of Samsung tablets in the wild, back when Android tablets were a thing people thought would make it. Now, I haven't seen one, not in years. And so my thinking is they're being used inside of companies, or they've got to function somewhere and someone is paying for them, because otherwise Samsung would stop making them. There's certainly a company that's willing to throw some money at a product to make it work, but at this stage there's no reason to think that this is going to work. And if I were in Samsung's position, I would even just stop making them for like 4 or 5 years and then just relaunch. Unless, and it's the big unless, they have customers who are actually buying them somewhere. And the only explanation I can think of is, again, service contracts or companies.
Yeah, it could be that. They also do have other tablets like geared at like enterprise use, but like not necessarily in the same form factor. Like they have their, like, I don't think it's called X cover, I think that's the phones, but they have like a more like durable tablet for those use cases that's like made for like emergency responders and
Sure.
groups like that. But yeah, I mean, it could totally be this. I know Samsung's tried really hard to sell DeX as like a good solution for like companies where like you could give, you know, your employee like an S23 or whatever, and they could dock somewhere in their, you know, office and have all their stuff. I don't know if anyone actually did that, because it's also what like Microsoft tried really hard to do with Windows Phone. It didn't turn out to be that strong of a selling point.
Which is funny because it would make a million times more sense to do that with Windows Phone than it does any of the Android stuff in general, but especially like DeX.
Yeah, so I don't know. These are just weird. And yet Carson said, I don't know if I'd really enjoy quote unquote working from an iPad over an actual laptop. Yeah, I mean, I've tried it because I do have my iPad Air 4 that I bought used on Swappa, and I got Logitech's keyboard cover for it, which is quite nice and also significantly cheaper than Apple's option for that. And like it's, you know, it's pretty nice. Like iPad OS with like a like touchpad and stuff is great. But yeah, like I cannot really work from there, but it is mostly the screen size that is the issue. Like absolute minimum for me doing my work is like a 13-inch laptop screen. Anything smaller than that, like because like when I'm, you know, most of my work is writing. I'm sitting at my desk writing something, and I've got my text editor, you know, content management system, whatever, on one side of my screen, and I have what I'm reading and researching on the other side, and that is the most efficient way for me to do my work. So at a minimum, that needs like 13-inch laptop screen really to see anything, unless I zoom out a lot. Ideally ultra, like on my desk I have an ultrawide, and it's great. It's perfect for this. Like that is still the best like work investment I've ever made in my life, is this ultrawide monitor I bought like 7 years ago. So yeah, like I can't really do work on my iPad, but like maybe I could if I got like the, you know, the big boy 12-inch iPad Pro or something. But again, at that point I would rather just spend that money on like a MacBook Pro, because that's about what it would come out to.
Yeah, and that's really the whole thing here is if you're look, I would certainly argue in agreement with Carson on this one. I'm never or almost never going to choose an iPad over a laptop, but I would at least choose an iPad over an Android tablet, any Android tablet. And again, at these prices, like, I can see an argument for working on an iPad if what you're trying to say is, oh, I can only afford the iPad, and maybe you get like a third-party keyboard or something like that, or any Bluetooth keyboard. Which, reminder to anyone who forgets this, Bluetooth keyboards work, like all of them.
And Bluetooth mice.
Yes. You don't have to buy Apple's things to do this. Anyway,
No.
so when you take these things into account, an iPad is a cheap way to work if that's what you need to use, or if you really need incredible battery life, or maybe you specifically need some of the iPad apps and you can't bring an iPad and a laptop for space or weight reasons. Whatever the case, it doesn't matter. Point is, sure, go ahead. Like, there, use what you need to use, carry what you need to carry, but when you're comparing the price of these specific tablets against the prices of the competition, and then you're comparing features and where you would use them, I can't find any good angle to wedge this thing into where it becomes the choice.
As like, especially for productivity. Like, I can, like, again, I see this looks like an absolutely fantastic, like, mobile Netflix screen, if that's like what you want the most. Like, that's honestly probably the best option, because Samsung makes the best AMOLED screens, and Apple is still doing the mini LED thing. So, like, that's really great. But like, if you're coming from an angle of like productivity, then number one, Android's not a good choice. I would argue it's going to be better in some ways than like an iPad, because Chrome on Android is a lot better than Safari on iPad OS, but like not by like a ton. Like, you still have like the tablet Chrome, so it's not going to have everything. But
well, if that's what you need, then you
right.
shouldn't be using this anyway. You should go to a laptop.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, because I was about to say, like, if you're using it for productivity and like you want something that's not like you're bringing a bag of shit with you wherever you go, then you would probably get like the official keyboard, cover for this, that kind of stuff. That's Samsung charges a lot for those. Like, I think their keyboards might actually be more than Apple's for their tablets, and they're worse because Apple. I don't know if this has changed, but I know on my Tab S6 and I believe on the S7, they don't have like strong enough magnets for the like keyboard cover on its own to like hold up your iPad and stuff. Granted, Apple doesn't really either. But Samsung's solution to that, instead of building something that like wrapped around the tablet entirely, like my Logitech. My Logitech one is like this, where it's just like a case, and it's got little magnets and stuff. But it like wraps around, so it's a nice secure fit. Samsung's solution to that was making a keyboard case that like glues to the tablet. So if you want to take it off, you can't really put it back on, and that sucker's like $200. So again, yeah. So like, again, once you get to that point, again, even with the basic Tab S9, that's like $1,000. You should be buying. You can get a really nice laptop for that. You can get a really nice laptop for that $800 that it starts at without anything.
Yeah,
laptops are pretty great now. You can get, there's a lot of stuff in that. I mean, the M1 Air has gone on sale for lower than that sometimes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's a spectacular. Well, okay, I'm not a huge fan of the Airs per se, but that's still a spectacular laptop compared to this really, for sure.
Yeah, and like I know I'm like almost sure I've talked about it on here, but it might have been a while. But like, Apple's Air lineup like has completely eliminated, I think, like most of the arguments for working from a tablet, because the arguments were always like, I want the best battery life possible, and like all of these laptops last like 5 hours on a single charge. That sucks. Not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
They last forever, and completely silent operation.
Hmm.
So even less of a case for these Samsung tablets than there was like 5 years ago. Um, so
Also,
I don't know what Samsung's doing.
also good size screen, way better keyboard, better speakers, headphone jack. By the way, yeah, pretty much every good reason to go to an M1 Air. So
Yeah. So
yeah, this is a no brainer. We could probably beat them up over this for ages, but the principal point here is Samsung is overcharging egregiously. The and again, I think they have a reason for it. My only explanation is that someone has to be buying it, and it must be companies. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some cabal of rich people out there that's like, oh no, this is exactly what we want, and we're happy to pay for it. But I don't know who they are.
yeah.
Maybe I just don't know enough crazy rich people. Um, but Corbin, you did suggest also this Play Store large screen thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that kind of ties into this. Where
Yeah,
let me pull this up. Um,
yeah. That
yeah,
that's why
there.
I figured we were leaving the Samsung thing.
Yeah, that's fine, and I don't need to like read the riot act again for this. But yeah, so the also today Google published a blog post that kind of talks about their updated Play Store experience for. They're just using the general term large screen devices. So this is tablets, this is foldables, Chromebooks, maybe the play games thing on PC they have now. I'm not sure, that might be a different UI, but um, their main focus for this is prioritizing apps that are actually built for tablets, and that's that's really it. And I saw a lot of places covering this as like a like Google cares about uh, tablet optimized Android apps. Like they're gonna like start like really caring this time, and this is like
Really
when
caring.
people really care, and this is like the Groundhog's Day of 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 Android. Like this message of like the tablet apps will get better, because I've heard this at least, like this has happened over and over again. It's where like I don't know when I would say this the first time, but obviously Android initially had like the Android 3.0 honeycomb era, where like Google for like 6 months was like laser focused on tablets. Like we're gonna make the best fucking tablet OS you've ever seen, and it was pretty cool. I liked honeycomb, and
Yeah,
ICS was pretty great. And then it started to really tamper off because Google was focused on the Nexus 7 and other devices that were like 7 inches. So a phone app was good enough on those. So they didn't really care as much. And then the tablet specific features in Android started to get removed. Um, so that was that. So that was first, like tablet apps are getting good, gone. And then eventually Google started working on the Play Store for Chromebooks. And the hope there was that, oh, if look at all these Chromebooks that are being sold. Surely developers will see that and think, oh, I should make sure my Android app looks great on large screens, which would also benefit tablets. That didn't really happen. Android apps on Chromebooks didn't change a whole lot there, because again, like you could run the Android apps in like little floating windows, so it didn't really matter if they didn't fit in. People still use them anyway because they're Chromebooks. You had no other option. Like, what are you gonna do? Go download the Windows app? No, you're not. You've got a web browser computer.
yeah,
And then it happened again when the first like foldable stuff came out. People were like, "Oh, this is it. The tablet apps are gonna get better." Didn't really happen with that first wave. It really took like, I think it was like 2 years ago, like when we started getting like the Android. Uh, that first like minor Android update, I forget, it was like, it wasn't 10.1.
12L.
12L. Yeah, that was really where Google started like updating the OS again and updating their core apps to look better on foldables, which is doesn't always carry over to tablets. Some of them did, but not all. So we're in this phase now where it's like, all right, Google cares at the moment for some of their apps. And I don't know if this time it's gonna be sustained. And again, like their main priority here is still foldables. Like that's the growth market. Um, Google has a tablet now, so I think that maybe makes them care like 2% more. Um, they have a tablet that is like a 10-inch tablet, not like something that you can really get away with phone apps on and be a good experience, unlike the Nexus 7. So maybe this will matter, but like I do not think that you can say like, oh, this will be it, because I've seen that I've seen that play out several times now, and Google still is not really emphasizing tablets and large screens in the way that they probably should be. And again, it's a chicken and the egg problem where there are no successful like large screen Android tablets, so there's no incentive for developers to care. So the experience is worse for the few large screen devices that exist.
So I'm gonna just say first off, Google's efforts to promote tablet apps have always been really lackluster and disappointing. I remember very specifically there was, I apologize, I can't remember the name of the app, but at one point during, I think it came somewhere towards the tail end of the Honeycomb days. And as everyone was kind of sitting there going like, hey, when are we going to get ice cream sandwich on our tablets? Somewhere around that time, somebody came out with an app that was basically described as the Play Store for tablet apps. And it was basically that. It was kind of just a directory that pointed to a bunch of tablet apps. And if you hit a button, it took you directly to the Play Store where you could install them. And the going question everybody had is, why the hell hasn't Google come out with this? Like, just put this in the Play Store. This exact thing needs to just be in the Play Store. Like, tell us about tablet apps. We want to know about them. And it never happened. Reasons for that, I'm sure, could vary. I remember hearing even a rumor that they didn't want to do that because they thought it might show too much preferential treatment to apps by virtue of simply having a tablet app interface. Or maybe that they didn't want to go through the process of like actually curating it themselves, so they left it behind. I don't know. Hey Brawl, how's it going? So yeah, I get the argument, and I fully support that there is a good argument for maybe there's a good argument for why they might not have wanted to have like specific recommendations for tablet apps in the Play Store back then. They clearly learned somewhere along the way that they need to promote apps, at which point, I would even argue Google has maybe gone a little overboard with kind of realizing they need to promote apps, especially since they really love to promote certain partners over everybody else, especially like high dollar partners as opposed to indie partners. Weird how that happens. But nevertheless, it's where we are now. Which is, it is what it is. At this stage, if I was to give any advice to Google, and I know they take my advice completely to heart, they listen to everything I have to say and consider it sage wisdom that is to be taken seriously. And as much as I mock that, to be fair, I've been banging on the drum for certain things to be done, and they ended up doing exactly those things. Maybe they were predictable, maybe they weren't. I don't know, but who knows? Anyway, my advice, yes, promote tablet apps, encourage tablet apps, show them off, let people know about them, and don't stop. Keep it going. Make it clear to developers that this is a thing that they can count on to continue operating like this, because then they might see it as a thing worth their time to do. It doesn't matter if not many tablet apps come out, as long as people, developers specifically, feel like there's a place that is going to kind of help promote their apps, then it might go a long way towards ensuring that they see value in continuing this process. Because right now, I think most developers are looking at this going, well, what happens when this section goes away in 2 years or a year? I'll have wasted this time, and the only promotion that'll exist is somewhere on an app listing. It will also, like, if you already find the app, it will mention, oh, this looks good on tablets. Well, that's not good enough.
Yeah, the entire system for promoting tablet Android apps was horrible for years. Like, it was like they'd have the same like 20 apps in their list for like a year, and all of those would just be apps that looked okay on tablets. None of them were ever like really like I think Slack was in that list for forever, and that sucked on tablets and Chromebooks. Like, that was really bad. I think they even like completely got rid of their tablet UI at some point. Like, and then there was that whole phase. I don't know when this changed, but for a while, your app was tablet optimized in the eyes of Google, as long as you had a tablet-sized screenshot in your listing.
Yes.
So it's like, guys, come on. So, as a developer, I can totally upload either just like a marketing screenshot, like something that's not even the app running, just like a cool picture or something, or like a screenshot of the phone app like in a frame with stuff around it, and it's tablet size, so it's a tablet app now. Completely bonkers.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, there's they've been so bad at this over the years. And by the way, there was also a phase where you, if I recall correctly, you basically just checked a box saying that this is a tablet app. And this was pretty early on, but it was a way that they were trying to identify them. I think you checked a box and you had to have like layouts in your APK that were for like XX large or whatever it was.
Sure.
But yeah, it was ridiculous, and a lot of that stuff ended up not working very well. So, and plus, and as Austin says here, and this was kind of weirdly true, Google didn't even update their apps until Q2 2023. Here's the thing: the Play Store for a long time was not tablet optimized, and then even after they did tablet optimize it, later on, the tablet optimized version broke. Like when Google clearly stopped caring about tablets, all of a sudden, or not suddenly, but after a while, the Play Store version started breaking in weird ways on tablets. So Google didn't even care about tablets enough to maintain their own software. These have been ongoing problems. So, honestly, I know that there's no way you can ever hold Google to account on something like this, but I think the only way they're really going to convince developers to put serious effort behind tablets is, one, they're going to have to like make a very blatant verbal commitment. All of our major apps are going to support tablets. The Play Store is going to be tablet optimized, and it is going to have a section dedicated to tablet oriented apps. Well, folding friendly and tablet apps. Let's frame it that way. And third, and I know that this is the one that's I've said it. I've beaten this drum plenty of times. Other people have as well. They're going to have to actually sell a cheap tablet. Not cheap, but low cost. They need to make another Nexus 7, basically. But it has to include, let's say, a Tensor chip. It doesn't even, in my opinion, it doesn't even have to be the latest one. It can literally be last year's chip. Because I don't think people are looking for necessarily killer performance. Not to say Tensor is necessarily a performance god either. But it's going to have to be something that people can afford. And it's going to have to perform well. And it's going to have to be a good product at probably a very exceedingly reasonable price. If they can do these things and make it a popular product that developers can be like, oh, wow, that's something I actually want to sell to, then there's a chance. And honestly, Google might have to sort of bite the bullet and ship multiple generations of this to kickstart this process. And even then, honestly, they're going to have an uphill battle because, holy crap, iPads are really good and don't cost that much. Granted, $450 is kind of a steep starting price to some people. Google's probably going to have to kind of beat that. They can. And that is a thing. They can. They actually have this capacity. They just have to actually try to do it.
Yeah, I agree that base iPad for $450 is not like a great value.
It's a great value. It is a high enough starting price
right.
that not everyone can afford that. Whereas a Nexus 7, when it launched, the Nexus 7 was $200.
I think it was $200. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just go 200, whatever it was. It was cheap enough that for gadget people, you look at that and go, oh yeah, that's like almost impulse purchase. Obviously, that's not impulse purchase price per se, but you know, for gadgets, it kind of is. You can't say that about any iPad.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not $200, but there has always been a huge ecosystem of, you know, used iPads, last gen things on sale.
Yeah.
That last longer than the average Android tablet in terms of software support. And, you know, Apple has repeatedly put that 9th gen iPad on sale for like $250.
Yes.
Granted, I don't know how much longer that tablet has left to live. They've confirmed it's going to get iOS or iPadOS 17 this year. Unclear what the year after that will bring, but yeah, that's something. Yeah, someone brought up the Pixel tablet, and like honestly, the Samsung tab, I think, is a better buy. Unfortunately, it's like it is more expensive, but you know it's got a better tablet stuff. Like Google doesn't have anything like Dex, and better screen and S Pen. So
yeah, whereas Google's doesn't.
Both of them, you should buy an iPad instead in most cases.
Yes,
but I'm saying like if there is a gun to your head, you can only purchase an Android product. I would go with the Samsung.
I mean, you could just get shot. It might be no. Anyway, yeah. I don't know. I wish there was a more positive spin to this, but unfortunately, yeah, Apple has dominated this market, and it happened because Google dropped the ball. Samsung wasn't really willing to pick it up properly. Not that it's their responsibility to, but you know, they're trying to sell products, so it is to some extent. But yeah, there was no way to turn this around and make it a success story for Android tablets. Like there just isn't somebody out there who's putting out the product that's going to motivate tons and tons of people to start picking them up. And yes, I know someone out there would probably argue, but what about Amazon? Sure, go ahead, call that an Android tablet. You wouldn't be wrong, but also you're wrong.
Yeah, and Amazon is in the same position as Google was in, like, when they were making the Nexus 7, where the tablets they sell the most of are those Fire 7 and 8s that if you scale up a phone app to that, it doesn't look that bad. It looks fine.
Yeah.
Um, it less so for those like the 10-inch one, but again, it's not as big of an issue.
Yeah, the units they're selling though are the ones that can do that. The ones they don't sell very well, yeah, those are the ones where apps don't blow up very well. Plus, to their minimal credit, they are also I'm not going to say laxer, but because the Fire tablets don't get every yearly update, and as a matter of fact, they're always really behind. The practical reality is, developers target that. They release apps that target a specific version, and then they really don't have to update them, keep them updated, or anything like that. Whereas, thanks to Google doing googly things, you have to keep your apps reasonably updated now. Which is a good thing. I mean, it should be that way, but it also has its very obvious, tangible drawback. So, it does dissuade developers if they're not making good money out of their apps, if they're just doing okay. It doesn't motivate them to really keep going.
Yep. So I think we've thought about Android tablets more than Google has. So I think we can.
Well said.
Yeah.
And since you brought it up earlier, and I don't have any other great time to squeeze this in, let's talk about the app that you have built that happens to actually work fairly well on a tablet, because it's a progressive web app.
Right. Sure. So.
Super great transition, I know.
Yeah. So last month, let me actually I'll put the blog post in the chat, but earlier this month, I don't think I talked about it on here. I'm pretty sure I didn't, but I rolled out a new version of my PhotoStack web app, which is a batch photo editor that supports watermarking and cropping and other fun stuff. I didn't really add any features with this update. This was more of a, like, I'm cleaning up stuff to make this easier to run in the future. And I was trying to improve a lot of the UI stuff. So now it's organized a little bit better. Like, you have you have nice nav bar on the top. You can switch between the editor and the watermarks, and the home page, which is right now just like kind of a splash page. I might do something more with that later, but yeah, it's still, you can drop in images. I fixed print support, so you can print a preview of the image you're editing. I don't know entirely if people do that, but it's there now and it works. It is a progressive web app, so it works great on a lot of stuff. It has keyboard shortcuts, because at one point I was using this on my Galaxy Tab S5e, I think, which had a keyboard cover that didn't have a touchpad on it. So the fewer times I had to, like, move my hand up to the screen to tap stuff, the better. So that's why that had keyboard shortcuts. And yeah, it's still got like a lot of stuff I need to tweak, but it's a lot easier for me to maintain now. Like, I've completely dropped the Android app. That was a dumb idea. I don't actually, because so for context, I had a web wrapper in the Play Store, and it was made with Google's trusted web activities framework. So like you would install it and it would basically run like in Chrome, like sort of in the same way that you would install a progressive web app with Chrome for Android. And that is the stupidest. Like the way Google has implemented that is terrible, because you have to compile this thing with Android Studio. Um, I think maybe that PWA builder thing that Microsoft made takes care of that, but like that's the main way you're supposed to do it. And um, the at least when I was trying it with the progressive web app, you can define actions that show up when you hold down the icon, like those extra like uh, shortcuts, right? And you can pin those to the home screen and stuff. On the website, I can just add those in the manifest file, and that just gets automatically picked up by all the web browsers. So eventually, it just shows up. But because of the way these things are packaged, those options had to be duplicated in the Android app wrapper thing and could not be updated at the same time as the web app. So, like, if I wanted to add a new shortcut and I already added on the web, I'd have to re-implement it and push an update to the Android wrapper, which is insane. Same thing with like icon changes and stuff. Also, Google had a rule where you can't. I forget exactly what it was, but it was like you couldn't have. Oh yeah, I couldn't have donation links in the Android web wrapper because they didn't go through
The Play Store billing.
The Play Store billing, and I believe they have a way to like do that through the wrapper, but then the issue is that if you want to do transactions on the Play Store, you need to have your address listed on the Play Store, and I'm not doing that. And like, I'm sure if I put, Google says you can't put a PO box there. I'm sure they don't check that well enough. But I'm not paying for a PO box just for this. So I had to add like extra code to be like, if this is running in the Android container, like hide all the donate links. And then it's like, okay, great. Why am I doing this? Like, it's, so that was really annoying. So I'm done with the Android version that's been unpublished from the Play Store for like a year now. Now, if you still have that installed and you open it, you're going to get a nice message that says, please open this website in Chrome and just install it from there. It's the same exact thing, except I can show donate links. And I don't have to maintain an entire extra wrapper for, to get a couple people from the Play Store. It doesn't really seem like that was ever a huge discoverable place for that app.
It probably could be or would be in the right circumstances, but yeah.
Maybe it's the issue I also had with PhotoStack is that photo stacking is like apparently a thing that like is like a term used in like I think like astronomy stuff. So people would find this on the Play Store and then rate it like 1 star because it doesn't do photo stacking, which is like a thing I didn't know like really existed. So maybe.
Well, you might be talking about focus stacking.
Maybe.
And focus stacking, it is definitely a thing. It's a pretty popular function. Basically, where you take a bunch of different images, each one focused at a slightly different distance, and you basically you stack them so the parts that are in focus are used and the parts that are not in focus are basically masked out. So yeah, it's a really common thing to do, but I don't know. You'd think they'd figure that out from reading it. Look at a description.
Yes, that just wasn't worth it in the end.
That or it's a feature you could offer.
So yeah, that wrapper is gone. I still have the Microsoft Store app because Microsoft doesn't have any rules there. You can do whatever you want as long as you put your app in there. Microsoft's happy. So the Windows 10 wrapper app is still in there. But yeah.
Okay,
So
Austin's saying that this is a thing. Is it still what I described, or is this actually something different? Um, let's see. Oh, okay. So this is for noise removal. Basically, take a bunch of photos, stack them together, and average the difference, and it's a way to get rid of noise. Okay, I don't think I've ever heard of it being called focus or photo stacking, but I mean I've heard of like image stacking, um, or I think different stacking may have been a term, but yeah, I never heard of it being called specifically photo stacking.
so yeah, so that's a web app that I made, and it's still pretty cool, and still gets like if I see in the last 7 days, there have been 119 imports in PhotoStack and 73 exports. So that's rough indicator of how often this is actually being used versus people who just like land on the website and then leave.
Um, so I'm just gonna throw this in there as a feature request right now. Can we have buttons to cycle through the images when you import
I think,
like a dozen?
yeah, I think that was asked. Probably. Uh, I'd have to think. I'd have to think about that. I mean, I know it's like possible, but I don't know how much work that would be. But I will. I'll put it in the list that I'll look at in a year. No.
Yeah, I just know that more than once I've imported like a batch of photos, and it's like, does it pick at random which one it's going to show you, or something? I don't know. Anyway, somehow the one that it
Um.
picks is never the one I actually want to double check. So like I could import one at a time, but that's if I was going to do that, I
That
would just add I would
defeats the
add
point.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, in my own image editor.
Yeah. I think it picks the first one that like your browser uh thinks is the first one in the list.
Yeah, and I think your browser's pretty much just randomizing.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, that's my feature request. Make it
On
so.
the list.
Um, all right. Anything else that you wanted to mention or pitch or uh, complain about?
Nope. Hopefully, should have a cool new personal project to add to the pile in sometime next month, probably. Still working on it,
Okay.
but that will be fun.
All right. Well, in that case, let's go back to bashing on Google for a moment.
Okay, I can do like one more thing probably, and then I need to take off.
Okay. Well, then I'll give you an option because there's uh, three. One of them's kind of an A and B remaining.
Okay.
We can do the fuchsia thing. We can do the social network screwing up thing, or we could do the Apple credit thing. Which one do you feel
Um,
more emotional about?
I don't know. You pick one. I kind of feel about the same about all of them.
Okay, well, since you know what, since you brought up, actually, this is perfect. We're gonna do the social network thing because you brought up the threads thing, and I don't know details on that. You do, so uh, tell us about threads and the new chronological feed that they screwed up.
Yes. So when Meta Facebook launched Threads, which is their Twitter clone, it was very basic.
It's
Like it's
very, very
it's
basic, yeah.
right. It's very clear this was made very quickly to capitalize on the collapse of Twitter. Um, and one of the many issues. was that the only feed was algorithmic. So, you know, Twitter, when it was functional, had two options. It had a feed that was sort of prioritized in like what Twitter thinks you might care about or like stuff you might have missed, whatever. And then there was a separate feed that was just like, this is a stream of posts. The top one is most recent. You go down to see further back. Um, and of course, like many times, Twitter tried to like push the algorithmic one over the chronological one because it ultimately means people stay in the app longer because they haven't read anything or they don't feel like they've read everything. And Meta just took away that option entirely in the initial version of Threads because Instagram does have chronological, I believe, but it is very hidden. This just didn't have that. It was just purely like your stuff is jumbled up.
I could be mistaken, but I believe Instagram completely removed it like a year or two ago. As in, like, there was no way, hidden or otherwise. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember hearing people say it was gone.
So yeah, so it wasn't surprising that Meta did this to start with, but if you're building something that's like supposed to replicate Twitter, that's like kind of important. So they do now have a just following feed that is a list of people you follow in a list that is in order of posting, which is great. Except it's also kind of hidden. You there's a tab bar to switch between those two modes, and you only see it if you like hold down on like that home tab, or you tap like the in the screenshot they have like the Threads logo at the top. If you tap that, it brings it down, which is annoying. And then also Meta confirmed to The Verge that the you can't set a default. So when you like completely is if you're on the following mode and you like completely close out the app, like force quit it, everything, and then go back to it, it's going to be in the algorithmic feed again. So that's really annoying. And again, you know, every time I read this, I'm just like, I have been so spoiled now by by Mastodon and all of the really nice apps people are building for Mastodon. I know, like, not strictly comparable in terms of the things that both networks have, but it's like I really do not want to deal with that anymore. It was already really frustrating with Twitter, but now Twitter's dead, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and not only would I agree, I gotta say, like, the quality of apps that exist for Mastodon is so many leagues better. It makes me not want to use the other services, even though I would certainly say that as much as I have a distaste for Facebook, Meta, whatever, as many people do, I will grant Threads had a very nice opening salvo of it for an experience. In terms of the people jumping over there, starting to use it. Granted, it was a whole lot of people being like, "Oh, hey, we need to get a community started for this thing or that thing," and there was immediately a big push for developers to find each other and start following each other and blah blah blah. Like, that was a nice opening. Yeah. Now, granted, a lot of reports came out very quickly that within like a week, I think it was, or maybe it was less than that, whatever, very quickly, apparently usage of Threads plummeted. Like they lost something like half of their users after 2 weeks, I think. But to be fair, their user numbers were also still growing. So active may have fallen, but whatever, who cares? That said,
I think
I don't like the app.
Like 70% of what it started at.
Sure.
But like, yeah, again, like that's about what I expect. Like, you know, Meta puts a big button for this and easy importing into the biggest social network that currently exists. So yeah, a lot of people are gonna try it, and then like 10 minutes later, they're gonna be like, I don't really like this, and delete it.
Yeah.
Um,
And fact is, I just haven't been starting the app. Like, it's installed, it's set up. I just don't reach for it because I kind of don't like using it. And part of the reason is it kept showing me stuff from people that I didn't follow. I didn't want to follow. I didn't want any connection to. It's using its crazy social graph BS to figure out, oh, you knew this person, or maybe you followed them somewhere else, and not even on Facebook. And so we're just gonna make sure that you see their stuff. And it's like, no, I didn't follow that person for a reason. Like, take the hint. There's this one very specific person I'm picturing so much as I say this. Let's just say no one wants to follow former bosses. It's a thing. But you know, I'm sorry. Threads is too pushy with things, and I don't want that. And it's been a really nice experience being on Mastodon and just being able to use it cleanly and see what people posted that I wanted to follow. And if I unfollow them, yay, I've unfollowed them. And it's a success. Like, it actually works when I unfollow them. Whereas on Twitter, there were people I unfollowed, and I kept getting notifications about them posting. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. There are people I've muted that I still get notifications for. Like, why? How does that work? Anyway, yeah. So, the algorithmic feed is something that, if companies are going to do it, I know this is a 10 years too late statement, but if companies are going to do it, they need to do it better than they have. And yeah, Threads feels like it's already getting that wrong.
Yeah, like, it's a great option to have. Like, if I do not open this app for a week, I'm not going to scroll through a week's worth of posts. I just, try to figure out like what's important and show that to me.
Yes, that part I appreciate.
Yeah. So like, definitely have it as an option, but it's just the issue where everything that has implemented this nudges you to use it because it drives up time in the app, because it never ends. And you never know if, like, have I seen everything from my friends? Maybe not. Maybe there's something below this Wendy's post that I missed. I need to keep going.
Yeah.
Which is also why I initially stopped using like Google Feed, Google News, that stuff, because it was the same thing where it's like, is the news I like actually care about like going to be a little bit lower? Like, do I need to keep going? And that's when I switched over to RSS apps for news, where like can't get everything because some sites have forgotten what an RSS is, but it is something that like I just have a fixed number of things in there, and once I get to the end, that's it. There's no more news. Nothing else in the world has happened.
Exactly.
So
when you get to the end, there is no more news. I like it. So yeah, when all is said and done, I appreciate that they're trying to do a chronological feed, and sure, they might be kind of hiding it so it's not discoverable, and they're making it unpleasant to find or to keep using because you can't set it as default. It's good that they're trying to add it. I just have a feeling that even when after enough time goes by, and this is kind of like with ads, we know Threads is eventually going to get inundated with ads. I don't know if they started showing them yet. I haven't opened it in the last couple of weeks, so maybe it's happened, maybe not. But just like with ads, we know that eventually it's going to be like you see 2 posts and then you get an ad. 2 posts, ad. 3 posts, ad. 3 posts, 2 ads. Like, it's going to get that bad. It's just how Facebook works. And likewise, I think their chronological view eventually will become kind of a hybrid of algorithm plus chronological. You'll get a chronological view, but it's still going to kind of pick what it wants to show you, and then once you get through that, it's going to give you all the rest of the stuff in chronological order. Except it'll still algorithmically tweak that, and it'll always pick things that it just doesn't think you need to see, or you do need to see. Anyway, speaking of dumb social network things, Twitter is straight up trying to threaten companies with unverifying them in the event that they don't buy enough ads. And I apologize, I have misnamed them. It is not Twitter anymore, it is X. Because it's dumb.
Yeah, so someone already made the joke that I found very funny, which is that Elon Musk dead names his trans kids constantly, but better not dead name Twitter. Like, okay.
Yep. No, that's perfect. I'd forgotten about the kid situation, but yeah. I was even going to make a comment about me accidentally dead naming it, but yeah, there we go. Anyway, so yeah, the pointlessly, foolishly renamed and relogoed Twitter, which, by the way, still has the name Twitter all over its website and still has the Twitter domain, still has the Twitter logo in many, many places, especially in the apps. But it's technically X, so, screw you if you want to call it by the old name. Yeah, apparently they're going to institute a new policy where if companies do not spend enough in advertising, they will get unverified. And this is, of course, already using the brand verification, which is way more expensive. Is it what, $1,000 a month? I might have that wrong. Yeah, it's let's see. According to the emails obtained by okay, that's about how much you have to spend. But yeah, whatever it is, you already have to pay way more for brand verification. And in order to advertise on Twitter, you have to be brand verified. So you literally have to spend money just to have access to spend money. And then once you've done that, apparently now their new rule is you have to spend, at least according to this, at least $1,000 on ads within the prior 30 days or $6,000 in the previous 180 days to retain the gold check mark. So, yeah, obviously you're allowed to have like lower spending periods in a month. You still have to maintain the 1,000, but on average you have to average basically 2,000 every 3 months. Well, 2,000 per month for 3 months. That's dumb. I mean, just what the absolute holy crap. I mean, I can't think of any better way to basically tell companies, we don't want you here. If you're not going to spend to the level that major companies do, we just don't want you here, go away. That I can't think of any other way to take this. Can you?
No, I mean, not really. I guess the right way to put this is that, like, trying to guess the reasoning for this is, like, besides the point. Like, it's just very clear that Elon is going to run this until it, like, just totally collapses. Maybe that's like a year or two from now. I don't really know. And then he will find everyone but himself to blame for it collapsing. Like, I'm 100%. Again, I can't take credit for this, but I think because I saw someone else say this, but it is 100% what's going to happen. He's going to complain about the woke advertisers for pulling out.
I think that's. I think it was me that said this.
Like he's going to do that. He's going to be like, "Wow, Twitter collapsed because Nike wouldn't buy ads here anymore, or whatever."
Yeah, he's going to blame the liberals. Like it's going to get politicized very heavily. He's going to make this a thing where also I think he's going to say that the rest of Silicon Valley was out to get him.
Yeah,
He's going to say that this was a conspiracy, that it was an effort by all the other billionaires to shut him out of the club, and therefore they need to be looked at, is going to be his argument. Which obviously is, in its own way, actually true, but it's not like the rest are out to get him except Zuckerberg. I mean, let's be honest. At this point, Zuckerberg actually is out to get him. And I don't want to see Meta win, but I do want to see Zuckerberg succeed in taking down Musk. So, I'm not totally against this. But I don't think anyone else cares. At this point, like, they're probably happy to see Elon take a hit, but they're not going to spend their money on it. They're not going to fight this situation. But they're also not going to spend money at Twitter to do it either. I have a hunch, I could be wrong. I don't think Google is funneling any money into Twitter anymore. And clearly plenty of other companies aren't either. So, because their advertising income, if I remember, I apologize. I don't remember where I saw this, and I don't know that these numbers were accurate, but their advertising income fell by something like 50% over the last, I believe, 3 months. And I may have that completely wrong. Please, somebody feel free to look this up and verify. Call me out if it's wrong or whatever. But yeah, their advertising money apparently is just getting halved, which is kind of dooming them, given that they were already hemorrhaging money. After all of Elon's cuts to the company that got rid of, what is it? He cut, did it end up being something like 80% of the employees? I might have that off. He's cut a bunch of employees. He stopped paying rent as much as he could. He stopped paying out to tons and tons of people who had valid business expenses that they were sending to Twitter. He's tried to harass other companies into renegotiating contracts in his favor, which rumor has it hasn't really worked out, nor should it. But after all these cost-cutting measures, they were still hemorrhaging money. And, at this stage, if they're not bringing in more money, if they're bringing in less than they were before, you got to figure this is just costing an arm and a leg. And it's, he had other investors in this project, but you got to assume they're not happy about this. And Elon himself is definitely losing money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is really bizarre because I just went to Twitter and I turned off my ad blocker, and first ad I saw was Samsung. So
Yeah, there is that.
It's a lot of companies who, clearly not like that big of an issue yet.
Well, in those instances, though, I have a bit of a theory. They're willing to still advertise there, but they've probably cut their advertising to much, much lower levels.
Right.
You have to assume Samsung is probably in that position where it's like, well, look, we're launching new phones. Do the ad buy everywhere. Or there is also a possibility Samsung may not actually be the one buying those ads. They could be buying, or they could be paying an advertising agency or a marketing agency to do advertising, and that agency may be the one like, oh no, we still use Twitter. And who knows? Samsung may or may not have anything to do with that decision. I mean, they could obviously say they don't want to use Twitter, but what company is actively saying, no, we're boycotting Twitter? So yeah, anyway, you're right.
For a company like Samsung, I'm sure Twitter was like 2% of their total advertising because they're just massive and spend on everything.
Yeah, not only that, but Twitter is very popular in. Realistically, it's was very popular in specific countries. Obviously, there's been usage around the world, but certain countries don't pay that much attention to Twitter, not comparatively. And Samsung, I'm sure their marketing dollars are focusing on every country that they market to or sell to. So you got to figure Twitter is an even smaller relevance once you factor that in. I can only imagine the amount that they're giving to Twitter is probably the tiniest fraction compared to what they're spending at Meta. I'm sure Samsung ads on Instagram have to be just ridiculously off the charts, way, way more. And probably same with TikTok and a few others.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Um, you know, kind of impressive how poorly that's going.
It actually is. You know what? I don't follow the news very closely anymore, but I'm still enjoying every day finding out, oh, here's what he screwed up this time. Here's the commandment that's going to take them down yet another road of failure. I shouldn't be this amused by it, but I am. Anyway.
Yeah.
Carson sees Galaxy Flip ads on Twitter a fair bit. They really are trying to make that. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. To be fair, I don't use Twitter enough to get ads anymore. The only time I ever load up Twitter, and I'm dead serious about this, it is I do not even scroll down the page at all. I load it up usually just to check 3 accounts. Oh wait, I guess okay. Some of those accounts I do scroll, but I don't visit those very often. There's one account that I check just for their latest tweets, which they don't tweet very often, so this isn't much. But yeah, I don't even get ads because they never show ads at the top of just loading an account page. You have to scroll down a little bit before you get to ads on those. And so there's one that I'm checking for an app developer, and then there's 2 other accounts that I don't check very often, but they have stuff about movie release dates. That's it. It's the only things I ever load Twitter for. And the movie release dates one I don't even have enough time to keep up with, but so like every few weeks I load one of theirs. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, and every once in a while I follow links that people paste into Discord. But, you know.
I probably still look at it like once a week or so. Just kind of see what's going on there and looking at all the people who are still business as usual over there. It's kind of weird, but you know. You do you.
Yeah, well, business as usual in a much smaller office. Carson's saying the amount of ads has increased ever since Elon took over. What I find funny about that is he spent so much time talking trash about ads and how he wanted to make ads less a part of the experience. Yet, clearly not what has happened. Though I guess in his minimal defense, he was implying or kind of said at some point that would be with the Twitter Blue subscription. So, you know, I suppose it would be accurate to say not necessarily also the case if you're not a subscriber. Though I've heard Twitter Blue subscribers still get a lot of ads.
I don't know if difference of ads was ever a selling point for that.
Oh no, it definitely was. Twitter Blue was supposed to have fewer ads. That was always part of the marketing for Twitter Blue. I think at this stage, though, it's not anymore. Or if it is, well, I think they still advertise that you get fewer ads. They've never claimed that you would get no ads. Anyway.
Good for him.
Sure. But yeah, this colossal failure is just... It's like cotton candy to the brain. It's just so damn sweet. So, let's see. Did you want to take off now, or do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, in fact, have to go.
I had a feeling. Slacker. All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to pitch or say or talk about before taking off?
Nope.
All right.
Nothing yet. So.
Well, that works.
I will take off now.
Well, dude, thanks for coming by. We'll catch you in the next one, I believe. Hopefully. We shall see.
Probably. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Later, man. Okay. So, what else do we have on the ticket? I have 3 last things to mention. One of them really quick. Not that I think anyone cares super much, but which is also why I'm going to keep this relatively quick. Anyone who follows drone news, you may have seen the DJI Air 3 was announced yesterday. It is DJI's latest drone, coming from their kind of middle of the pack drone line. Because they have the Mavic series, which is basically kind of like your for the pros version of a drone, and they have the mini series, which is the super lightweight, doesn't require registration. You might still have to have licensing, but it doesn't require registration. And at least I think I've got those terms oriented correctly. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. So I've got this. It has 2 cameras that one is a widescreen or wide angle camera, the other one is a telephoto camera, kind of mid-range telephoto, and you can actually even record from them both simultaneously. Anyway, so I have this. I got it only a few days before the embargo, so there was not actually anything approaching an opportunity to make a review in time for this. Various YouTubers have had it for weeks, so you know they had the advantage to post this much sooner. And it's possible some websites had it. I don't know. I haven't seen any websites post reviews yet, but maybe I missed them. Regardless, I will have a review coming for this fairly soon. I've only had a chance to take it out for one flight, but so far it flies well. I mean, all DJI drones for the last few years certainly have, so nothing too surprising there. Other than that, I don't have much to say on it yet. I will have more to say after I get a good look at the footage and play with it some more. Anyway, moving on from that, kind of a quick one, but Apple and Goldman Sachs apparently not doing super well together. The Apple Card, plus now the Apple Savings Account thing, whatever that was called, have apparently not been super lucrative to Goldman Sachs, who basically signed... If you read this report, I'll paste the link into chat. I won't go through all the details that are discussed in here, but if you check out the report, it effectively says that Goldman Sachs signed kind of a bad deal. They made a big mistake and didn't ask for charge fees and various other things that they would normally get if they worked with a partner. And so they also didn't arrange various other fees that would have been fairly normal in the industry. As a result, Goldman Sachs is, as previously rumored, they are possibly losing money, which has been rumored in the past, or at the very least, they're not making enough money. It's kind of unclear which, because some rumors definitely pointed to them supposedly losing money. Other rumors are claiming that they're profitable, just not to the level that it's worth. And apparently that some of the work that they've done has triggered a lot of investigations by, I believe it was the, who was it that triggered, or who was it that investigated? I'm skimming this and I don't immediately see it. I guess the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Thought it was one of the 3-letter acronyms also investigated, but maybe not. I could be misremembering. Regardless, yeah, apparently this is not working out super well for them. Meanwhile, Apple isn't happy with them because apparently a lot of people who should be getting accepted for Apple Card and Apple Savings accounts are getting denied. Apparently, a lot of customer service issues have been very problematic. I guess they're just not really working out very well in terms of like consumer-friendly behavior. And there's also a bit of a problem where just in general, they want to handle this kind of like a classic credit card where Apple wants new features. They want things to happen fast and smooth and kind of perfect. And that's not what Goldman Sachs does. They're not even up to speed for doing what a normal credit card company or normal consumer focused credit card company would do. They are more a normal, or they're more of a like high dollar spending company. And they obviously they do a lot of investment banking and pretty much anything else in that territory. So they're not really equipped to do what Apple wants them to do. And yeah, in summary, these two not the best bedfellows. They're kind of failing each other. As a result, the rumor is, or at least this is an extension of the previous rumors, the two might be breaking up or want to break up. Previously, it was rumored that Goldman Sachs was trying to farm this out to American Express, or I believe, was it Chase? Maybe it was someone else. I could be mistaken. I know American Express has made has appeared on the list of companies that they were talking to. Unfortunately, as this article also mentions, apparently Apple has an agreement of some kind that mandates they have to stay on the MasterCard system for it until at least 2026. And being that American Express is very much not on the MasterCard system, that would be a problem. So they're probably not going to take it. At least not in any sort of good time frame for this to work out. And other companies that do operate on the MasterCard system, rumor has it, a lot of them may not be that interested in working with Apple. At least not under terms Apple would want to demand. So this is turning out to be maybe kind of a really bad deal for everyone involved. And the reason I think it's interesting, let's see, Carson, are they actually third-party Amex cards? I don't understand this question. What are you asking? Or what card would they be? Or what card are you referring to? Because the Apple Card is, it is a MasterCard that is served through Goldman Sachs. If they were to work with American Express or hand this off to American Express, what would happen is American Express itself is its own platform. Like other cards using the Amex platform. So there are 3 common platforms in the US: Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. American Express is way less common than Visa and MasterCard. By far, Visa is the #1 platform. MasterCard comes in close enough. Like, there are rare few places that don't offer MasterCard or don't work with MasterCard, but Honestly, like, they're tiny. Discover is in the list. Yeah, I guess they are big enough. You're right. They're big enough, but I've seen a lot of places that don't accept Discover. So, and at this point, I don't know which. I'm sure there's statistics on this, and in fact, probably not hard to find out. How many businesses serve Discover cards? Is that gonna be no, not how many are in circulation. How many businesses accept? Okay. Oh, Discover is supposedly at 99%. All right, how many businesses accept American Express? How many merchants accept it? All right. All right. See, American Express is also claiming 99%. So who knows? That could be one of these two is probably wrong, but who cares? Regardless, the issue is Apple, for whatever reason, is still tied to, at least according to this article. Let me reiterate that. According to this article, Apple is tied directly to MasterCard for some amount of time. How long that, this article says 2026. Whether they could possibly break that deal, maybe it's technical, maybe it's based on a contract. Whatever the circumstances, it's possible Apple could break that deal and move over. Maybe it's not possible. Maybe it would be too expensive or unrealistic. Whatever the case, the likelihood is either Goldman Sachs is going to have to try to wriggle pretty hard to find somebody who would take over this arrangement, or they're going to have to break their contract, which would be devastating to them and honestly kind of devastating to Apple, because that would be a ton of people who suddenly get basically reverse all of the money that is in their system, and Apple would probably be on the hook to solve a whole ton of stuff. So we'll see. I think this is probably going to be a very messy situation, one way or the other. But what I think is significant about this is somewhere within the next 2 years, when some company takes over, all of a sudden, all of the Apple cards that they've issued, all those nice titanium cards, and everyone's accounts will have to all get reset to a new bank at some point or another, unless Apple and Goldman Sachs work out a deal to extend at least until 2026 or find some other solution. Maybe they renegotiate their contract. Who knows? I don't think that really solves some of the issues, because, for example, Goldman Sachs still not really intentional as a consumer card company. They don't want to be in that business from the look of it. So, or at least they're not going to be very good at it right now. And I think Apple would probably be happy to break up with them too. So we'll see. There are too many unclear details here, but and obviously unknowable details, because it's stuff that's only going on inside of meeting rooms. They're, I'm sure, discussing what to do about each other at this point, and probably seeing if they can either work this out in some other way, or if it's time just to break up and move on. And if a breakup is coming, Apple's probably going to have to find somebody who can handle at least the customer service aspect of this, and maybe also, work out some kind of a deal to handle the underwriting of the loans and the credit. And I know Apple's a very rich company, but the fact of the matter is, they're not that rich. Like, they can certainly underwrite a lot of credit card charges, but can they do that many? That one's asking a lot. Let's see. Austin, believe Discover lowered their percentage and sped up their payment delivery in the past few years. That would matter to businesses, but getting customers to start using Discover cards more often is the tricky one. And Discover has, to my knowledge, not really motivated people into being like, I know that they've offered a lot of deals to get individual people on board, but they're not necessarily attracting a lot of new people to Discover Card in huge numbers. So I think that's still probably not impacting too significantly yet. Let's see. Everyone uses Google Apple Pay to get around the Costco Visa agreement. What does that mean? I don't actually know what that's about. Can you use Google or Apple Pay at Costco? To my knowledge, I thought they were locked into just their Costco cards. But hey, I don't know, maybe. Let's see, Carson tried paying with the MasterCard via Google Pay and it didn't go through. Oh, it used to. Okay. Discover has good credit cards for students. That's actually smart. Offering to students is probably the best market for getting long-term customers on board. Plus, you can offer not necessarily the best perks, but you can offer perks. And a lot of students can't get perks with any other cards, or the perks they get are really, really crappy. So if Discover's willing to take a little bit more of a risk on some students, that would be the right way to do it. But yeah, regardless, I think at this stage, anyone who holds an Apple card, especially the titanium one, well, sorry, I guess that's the only one right now. But if you're holding one of those, hold on to that thing, because it'll become a collector's item someday. When people are out there like, oh, remember a day they used to work with Goldman Sachs? That was fun. Let's see. So yeah, that was pretty much all I had to say on that. But speaking of other breakups that are happening, let's see, Carson. I think Chase Freedom Unlimited is a solid first card for students. Yes. Though to be fair, a lot of students cannot qualify for that card. But yeah, if a student cannot qualify for that card, that is probably one of the very best. At least if you're not in the like rich category. If you're rich, then screw it. Go get one of those annual fee cards, because they will do way more for you as a student than anything else will. But that's, again, assuming rich. If you're not rich, yeah, try to get that card. Apply for that one if you can't get it. Spend 9 months trying to build your credit and then apply again. It's pretty much the best advice. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Just double checking a thing. Wait, what is... Okay, that. All right. So, finally, at least my last topic, unless something else pops up in the short term. Carson, thank you for suggesting this one. My first instinct when I saw this, by the way, was, holy crap, do I not care? Because as a user, I don't think anyone cares about this. But, well, Google has decided to abandon work on moving some of the hardware products that it ships over to Fuchsia. We, of course, have discussed this numerous times in the past that Fuchsia is being used to power an increasing number of Google hardware. It's now basically on all the smart displays. It, at one time, was... I think they were... I believe they've got a couple of other things using it, but I don't remember what. Anyway, again, as I was saying, my initial reaction was, I couldn't care less about this. This is dull. This is boring. Because it really doesn't affect the user experience in any appreciable way. As a user, no one can even tell that they're touching Fuchsia versus Android versus anything else, because all these things have a custom interface that really has nothing to do with the operating system running underneath. And very specifically, all the current smart displays are using Fuchsia, whereas a lot of the other hardware, including Chromecasts, apparently the Nexus dock, Pixel dock. Let's see, what are the other... some of the other things that they apparently were going to migrate to Fuchsia were the Nest Mini, the Nest Audio, Nest Wi-Fi, Google Wi-Fi, and apparently some Android things. But okay. So anyway, the finishing detail on this is basically they've been watching and noticed that a whole bunch of code that was previously targeted at transitioning these devices over to Fuchsia has now been removed pretty unceremoniously. Now, this article makes a few, we'll say, analytical choices that I don't agree on. In particular, they call out that that some of this may have had to do with the Fuchsia team, which was about 400 strong. Google laid off anywhere from 16 to 20% of that workforce. So, to be fair, that is both a significant number and not a significant number. All things considered, we don't really know what parts of the Fuchsia team were maybe cut, if it was specific to any one group or anything like that, or if maybe this was spread across there, just taking out people that maybe weren't high performers, whatever. Also, I think it's worth noting that this event just occurred, whereas most of that Fuchsia team that got laid off, they've been gone for at least 2 to 3 months. So, I mean, realistically, a lot of this is unconnected. Maybe there is a point where somebody said, "Hey, we don't have enough developers here who can focus on this," so they may have opted to axe these projects on that basis. But I'm skeptical. I'm really, really skeptical about that. What I do think, though, is... sorry. The other thing that they associated with this, let me get to that before I go to my analysis. The other thing that they noted is it's fairly likely some of this had to do with, as they phrase it, processor incompatibility with Fuchsia. Basically because pretty much all, if not all, of these devices were dependent on AM Logic products, chips, that may or may not have supported specific, AM Logic chips, let me say it that way, and then proceed to the next point, which is to say, when they're talking about incompatibility, or rather that Fuchsia doesn't support, I'm saying this badly. The term that they use, and I want to kind of pick apart, they say that, their specific phrasing was, One issue that potentially played a role is that the AM Logic A113L chip used in Clover, that is the name of the Pixel tablet dock, it does not meet Fuchsia's strict CPU requirements. Now, to some people, that phrasing may seem like it might sound as if they're saying that the CPU doesn't have the performance necessary for Fuchsia, or it may imply other things. The reality is, it's probably a case where the CPU just lacks a specific set of instructions. And a lot of times CPUs are designed where the instruction set is intended to keep a very light, or it's intended to offer a very lightweight, fast, or high performance instruction that can do a lot of stuff under the hood. Sometimes there's special hardware associated with this. Sometimes it's just an instruction that on its own, it effectively performs 20 or 50 other instructions in the background. And because it's doing that so close to the metal, even closer than you can get by writing assembly language, basically it's going to perform better. In many instances, that's kind of what the incompatibilities are going to break. So that's my hunch. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea, but it would make the most sense. So having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if they spent some time probably trying to work with AM Logic, probably trying to solve this, but it probably wasn't a ton of time. I don't know how long this project was going on that they were trying to work on transitioning all these products over, but one way or the other, it's evidently failed, or something failed. And now they've canned this whole project. So that's pretty much the news aspect of this, plus 9 to 5's analysis. Let me throw in mine, where I take this a step further. There are two ways to look at this. Either a few products kind of failed to get Fuchsia, and this very possibly means nothing for Fuchsia. This could mean nothing for those products. No big deal. Next time around, they will make sure that the AM Logic chips, or whatever chips they go with, support the necessary feature set. That's a possibility. We may not hear or even think about this ever again. There is the other way to look at this, though. This could actually be the first step in basically the end of Fuchsia. Stick with me here. Right now, the only major products, at least that we're aware of, that are using Fuchsia are smart displays, which previously were on a different operating system. They were transitioned over to Fuchsia, or well, some of them were. Others did ship with Fuchsia out of the box. But in practical terms, this is one of those things that happens when a project starts to die. The things that it would expand to stop becoming targets. Those who remember Google Plus when it started dying. Now, granted, this was a different set of circumstances, but when Google Plus went downhill, it obviously was kicked off by the fact that the person in charge of Google Plus left the company, and it was kind of his pet project. It eventually proceeded, though, that the person who took over wanted to kill Google Plus. Well, the first step to doing that is they canceled all the projects that involved integrating Google Plus into other Google properties. That proceeded then down numerous other roads, but fundamentally, at the end of it, they started removing Google Plus from projects. And eventually, Google Plus basically ceased to exist outside of itself, at which point they kept it running for about another year, I think. If that, maybe it wasn't even that. And then it was dead. And the practical reality is, if you work at a company like Google, you basically, your projects either have to grow, be overwhelmingly successful, or be very profitable. And Fuchsia right now just shrank. It is not profitable. And is it successful in some overwhelming way? Not really. I mean, show of hands, who here thinks that the smart display market is really, really deeply important to Google right now? And just remember, they haven't exactly been launching, like they haven't been growing their set of products. They haven't really been launching new stuff on a super frequent basis. Not that they have to, they really don't. These are products that can have a shelf life of a couple of years easy. But in practical terms, they're not really pushing smart displays nearly as hard as they used to. And I think that's, that's the natural market for these types of products. They don't need to push them as hard anymore. There will be a resurgence with Bard powering Assistant. Honestly, I actually think that's probably true, but I don't think it's going to matter for the hardware. But the thing is, and I have a disgusting but also very accurate metaphor for this. In practical terms, projects like any project within a company like Google kind of has to operate like the cigarette industry. The practical truth is, from the perspective of the tobacco industry, you need to constantly be getting new customers. Why? Because your current customers have a shorter lifespan. It's kind of a known trait. Basically, they're going to eventually run out of customers if they don't keep gaining new ones. The same metaphor, it may seem strange, but it's actually true when it comes to gadgets. Fact of the matter is, at some point, they're going to stop shipping the current versions of the smart displays. If they don't ship new versions that run the same software, there's not really a good reason to keep these things going. So at this stage, honestly, Fuchsia needs new customers if it's going to keep operating, because right now they're paying to take even the not so aggressive estimate of 16%. Let's see. That was 400 people, if I remember, or thereabouts. Let's just say it's 400. So let's say they have 336 people remaining. Yeah, at 336 people, each one of them making 100,000 or more a year. Assuming that's developers. Maybe it's not all developers. It could, there could be some designers and a few other people making less. But remember, there's also going to be, for the people who make less, they're also, most of those people are making more than 100,000. So it's, they're definitely balancing higher on that equation. So, just think about how many millions of dollars Google is currently funneling into this project to build Fuchsia. And now it's only running on 3 pieces of hardware. Or maybe a few more, but how much is it really making them? How important is it going to remain? It was a good backup plan, but it seems like Android is still progressing at a pretty solid pace and is pretty mature. At what point do they see this as not really worth it anymore? I don't know, but maybe they won't. Maybe Fuchsia is 1 or 2 years away from suddenly becoming our next smartphone OS. But it might not be. And if Fuchsia does not find its new customer, so to speak, relatively soon, I think we actually could be seeing the end of Fuchsia. Because projects don't... Let's put it this way. They just canceled not just one project. They canceled all of the projects to transition hardware over to Fuchsia. All of them. At least I believe that's all of them. Or any of the ones they were working on, at least. So that's pretty devastating. That's kind of the end of a product in my view. Or at least if I were one of the developers working on Fuchsia, I would be looking for a transfer to a different group. Just saying, I would have my resume ready, and I would be trying to transfer as fast as possible to any other part of the company, because you don't want to be on the Fuchsia team much longer than you have to be. That is my suspicion. Does this matter to end users? Not even in the least. Not at all. This is completely irrelevant to pretty much every end user out there. Eventually, if this does happen, Google will just transition the smart displays over to Android, or it will just maintain Fuchsia on those current smart displays until such a time that it's, they just start shipping all of them with something else, probably Android. Maybe they will maintain a small Fuchsia team just to keep maintaining the hardware. There are a lot of things they could do. And by the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. The Made by Google event that is coming pretty soon. The product life cycle is very surely already done on a lot of the products that are coming. So if anything launches in the near future with Fuchsia, good for that. It may be an excuse to keep more people on the team, or may keep it running a little longer. But I wouldn't take that as a sign that things are good for Fuchsia. Austin, you just want Zircon. I do not know what that's in reference to. I'm doing a quick search for it, and I don't see anything obvious, so you'll just have to tell me. But yeah, so I don't know. This was actually pretty much all I had to say on this topic. Is I kind of Fuchsia's microkernel. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, all said and done, I think Fuchsia probably, like, this is the first sign that Fuchsia does not have much future left. Or at least not one that will be that interesting. We shall see. I don't know. Anyway, that is the last thing I had. And I'm going to take off. I think now is probably about as good a time as any. So, as usual, if anyone would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Streamlabs, Cash App, and Patreon. I should be gaming this weekend, as usual. At least I don't have any particular plans to do too much else other than take a drone flying, but I'll probably do that at other times. But yeah, with that, thank you everyone for coming by, hanging out, and being part of the conversation. You've all been awesome people. I love your faces. Well, I don't see your faces, but I love you all. So, let's see. Yeah, should be back next week with some RambleCast goodness. This weekend for some gaming goodness. As usual, I almost forgot to say thank you many times to those who already support the channel in various capacities. You do very much keep this thing going, and thank you for that. But with that, I'm out for today, so I hope you all an excellent rest of the week, and I will see you in Discord. Good night, everybody.